Good morning, everyone. I'm Phoenix. I'm from UWE Bristol's international office, based in the KL office. But obviously, it's locked down, so I'm staying at home and working from home. And today we have Ray Priest, to join us in this session and to share with us about the development of the COVID and then answer some of the questions that parents and students are having. Perhaps Ray, you can actually do a bit of introductions of yourself.
Hello, Phoenix. It's really good to be here today. And just talking about the lockdown, all my books behind me, I guess this is an opportunity for the first time to actually read them all. So that's what I'm doing. I'm spending some time doing some reading. My favorite hobby of doing jigsaws. That's a bit sad, isn't it? But that's what I'm doing that as well. And of course, the house has never been so clean. So it's wonderful. I guess we're all doing that as well. So good morning to you, and it's lovely to be sharing this morning with you.
Good morning, Ray. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Well, since the COVID, and there has been really fast developments over the past few weeks, and from China, then to other countries, then to the UK's, and most of the countries are actually locked down. So our students ourselves also like lockdowns and stay at home and work from home. But nonetheless, there are just so many questions coming up, whether there will be an intake, whether how is that going to happen in the UK, whether will affect their study plan and whatnot. So we have gathered so many questions, and then we think that a session like this will be very helpful for our students as well as the parents in terms of to cope with these situations as well as to plan for the studies. So well, we have actually gathered some questions, and then we like to hear from you on behalf of the university. Is that okay, Ray?
Of course, some of it's very difficult because these are really extraordinary times. But nevertheless, it's really important that we take time today to really plan for the tomorrow. So I'm pleased to be here, and let's see if we can answer those questions.
Okay, we start with the COVID-19 pandemic first. Okay, what is UWE response to the COVID-19 pandemic in the UK?
Well, the first thing that the university had to do was, of course, consider everybody's safety. And I think that goes above anything else, because anything to do with our studies or to do with the future can come in the future. But the most important thing was to make sure that everyone is safe, to make sure that those people who wanted to return home, because we have so many international students from all around the world, were able to travel home. And for those students who wanted to stay behind, and there are 800 of them, international students at the moment, making sure that they could come together as a community, that they could be supported, that they could actually get the food that they needed, if they needed medical advice, that they could have that. And more important than anything, that they didn't feel isolated. Of course, the next thing that had to be considered was making sure that everybody's work was really supported. And so the whole curriculum has moved online, and that has included assessments. So people who've worried about their examinations, which normally would take place in May, the great news is that this year they'll be able to do online assessments, and then those assessments, along with the average of their best scores for the year, will be used to actually give them the results. So lots is happening. Teachers from the UK are teaching in different time zones to try and capture people from all around the world. And I'm really delighted to say that so far, all of our students are safe. No one has been sick, which is really good news, and that we're actually able to support everyone the best we can. But of course, it is very strange times. So every day brings up a new challenge.
Yeah, just like what the news says, it's like really unprecedented. So it's never happened before, and as if this is the first time we are actually having such a pandemic situations we are having right now, and we have actually read from the news itself that UV is the first university that turns its facility to become the Nightingale hospitals to tackle this COVID-19 situation. So could you actually share with us some of this information?
Surely, university has got lots of very large buildings, and the largest building of all is the conference centre, which is situated actually on the edge of the campus. So it's already really quite separate from the main campus itself. And that has been turned into a hospital with 300 beds for people who obviously are unwell. And so that work's ongoing. And we're really pleased that part of the accommodation is also handed over to doctors and nurses. But the whole thing has been able to be separated from the main university. So there are fences been put up, there's an actual corridor linking the accommodation to the hospital. And obviously, what is great is that UWE, which actually is a caring institution, is able to show in this way that it cares for the community too. But it's totally safe for everyone else who's on the campus. They're nowhere near where the hospital facility is, and there's no way they can access that facility either. So I know lots of people worry about that, but there is no contact between students or staff, or indeed anyone who's using that hospital facility. But I think it's great that you have been able to do this, and let's hope it helps lots of people, and more important than anything, that it saves lives.
Right. This is so good to hear because our parents and students and agents are really concerned about this. But having what you have just mentioned, that the safety of the students and are actually separated from the hospitals, the Nightingale Hospital, that is very important to know. And will that actually last until September, or it's going to be sooner?
Well, I think none of us can predict when things are going to end, whether it's in Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Brunei, or of course over in the UK. Everyone is hoping that things will get better in the next couple of months. But of course, that hospital will remain for as long as it needs to remain. However, the key thing is, as soon as the university is ready to open again for students, then the hospital will be completely dismantled. The buildings will be sterilised before they're brought back into use, and it will once again become a university building.
All right, thank you, Ray, for that. So, yeah, thanks for the update on the COVID-19 situations in UW Bristol's. And we have students actually prepare to go for this September intake. And at this point of time, there are just so many changes, and they've been asking whether there is an intake, when would that intake would be. Could you share with us?
What we do today really does matter tomorrow. And what we've got to be doing is saying that there is a future. We have to continue, that even though this pandemic is with us now and it seems like it's going on forever, of course it will come to an end. And at that point, we have to be ready to really kick forward with our education and to really make sure that all the opportunities are there for each other to learn together again and to achieve for the future. So the plan is, yes, that the university will open in the autumn. Now, notice I'm saying the autumn rather than September, because at the moment, the thing is that we can't give an exact date. The plan is to open in September with an autumn intake. However, that could be delayed to October, it might be November, it might be December, because the one thing that is absolutely critical is that everyone has to be safe. There is no point in opening the university and to indeed get people to travel 6,500 miles to the UK if safety is at risk. So the university will not open for face-to-face teaching until it's 100% safe to do so. But the plan is that that will be at some point in the autumn. So there's no reason why you shouldn't apply, because of course, if you apply, all that will happen is that the start date will be at a time when you are actually able to travel and when it's going to be safe to do so. So I would say, what do you lose? The important thing is get an application in to wherever you're thinking of going. It doesn't matter if it's UWE, whichever university it is, get an application in, start thinking about the future, because that future will come, whether it's in a few months or even if it's in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, a year, it doesn't really matter. Get the place booked now, and then you've got something to look forward to.
Sure, thanks, Ray. We also have some students having a the A-level qualifications or IB qualifications, but these exams has been cancelled. So what they should do?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because everybody's worried about their results. I think across the world, nearly every examination is being postponed, and so nobody really knows what's happening. Now, as far as A levels and IB results are concerned, what is of course good is that you've been working for a long period of time, and during that time, your teachers will be assessing you, will be projecting what they think your grades were going to be. You will have had assessments and grades for other assignments, and they can be used. They can be used to actually give you offers in the future. So please don't worry about results for A level or IB. We will be using what your teachers tell us in terms of scores for entry to university. And again, that's not just UWE, that's all universities. For other examinations, we're looking at similar types of models. So whether it be an HND study, which many people may have done, we may have to look at results that are not validated and use those. For other country examinations, again, we'll use teacher assessments. The one thing to be clear is that no student is going to lose out because of this virus. Nobody is going to lose their university place because exams have been disrupted this year. And that's kind of a commitment, I think, from universities globally. Everybody knows that these circumstances are extraordinary. So we have to do some pretty extraordinary things to make sure that you have opportunities in the future. So you can still go to university, you can still get the degree that you want. And I don't want you to worry too much about what's happened around examinations, because everybody understands the circumstances, and we're not going to have a whole generation that has lost out because of this.
All right, thank you, Ray. This is good to know. This information is really supportive to the students, especially the A-level cohort students, IB cohort of students, and let's assure that their future is at the guarantee. Moving forward, we have questions which are not so relevant about COVID, but general about applying to study at UWE. So we have many students actually asking why they should actually consider studying at UWE and not other university. So could you share with us your point of view why a student should choose UWE?
You know, I think where I'd like to start is by saying that every university is the right university if it's your university of choice. I want you to look at every university and to really consider what it offers, think about the courses that they offer, think about if it's the right place for you. If you, when you've done that, think that UWE is the right place for you, I think I can say pretty confidently that it will be. So what's special about UWE? Well, I could say it had wonderful facilities. I could say that it's an amazing, friendly place. I could tell you about the wonderful city in which it's based, in Bristol, in the UK. But actually, I want to focus on one thing. I want to focus on your future. Because the reality is that if you get a degree from UWE, from the University of the West of England, all the evidence shows, both internationally and in the UK, that your opportunity for future employment is much better than many other universities. In fact, it's in the top 10 of universities in the UK for employability. And that's not just for 1 year, that's every year. And that's because our degree programs are specifically designed to really think about future employment, to really think about how the world is changing and how you need to have the skills to be able to go with that change. How you can actually develop a career that will probably change 4 or 5 times over your lifetime, so that you have those skills to be adaptable, to be flexible, to be able to work in teams, to be technologically secure. All of those things are really important. So that's why I think UWE is a place that's really special. And you know, it's not just me saying it, it's the students of the university themselves. Every year, a survey is conducted across all universities where the students actually are able to say, we're satisfied or not with what's happening at our university. We're pleased about the teaching. we enjoy actually the learning environment. We really feel we're supported. And I'm delighted to be able to say that UWE has always finished in the top 10 institutions in the UK, and indeed is 7th in England for student satisfaction. That's a brilliant result. And I'm not sure that I'm really surprised about that, because the university also has the Gold Award for the quality of teaching. And that award under the teaching framework is so important to us, because UWE is a teaching university. It's about preparing you for the future. So you can see I'm enthusiastic about what UWE offers, but I also think you'll have a wonderful time. There's a brilliant social life. There are fantastic social facilities. And as I said before, it's such a great city to live in as a student. You'll be part of 50-odd thousand students in a city. And I think your experience will be, whether it's working or indeed whether it's in play, will be just fantastic.
Right. Thank you, Ray, to update us on that bit. Well, as we know that study abroad is just not about the degree or the master's degree, the educations itself, but it's also the journey, the experience as well. So our students and parents will also wonder why they should actually consider Bristol over other cities like London, Manchester, Leeds, and some other cities. So what's so special about Bristol?
Of course, is that it's in the UK. And as we know, the UK continues to have a great tradition in terms of education, and particularly in terms of higher education. We continue to have a number of universities in the top 10 universities in the world. We continue to have, I think, a pioneering education service, and all of those things are important. Then let's take Bristol. Well, Bristol in the UK has been consistently voted as #1 in terms of being the best place to live in the UK. But just forget that. It's really a city that's near a port. It's a city that isn't too big, so you won't feel lost. It's a city where, in fact, you've got every facility that you would expect in a city like London. So there's places to go and eat, there's theatres, there are cinemas, there's shopping malls, and on top of that, there's some beautiful places to go to. You can actually get out of the city within half an hour and be in fantastic countryside. You're close to Wales, to the mountains, you're close to actually being in places by the sea. It's just a wonderful place to live. And actually there's an airport which connects with nearly everywhere in Europe. So when you do get the opportunity, and I think as international students, you should take that opportunity to get out of the city, get across the UK, and then more important than that, go and see Europe, because all those pictures that you've seen actually do exist. And it's a great opportunity to explore. That's all part of being an international student. And even more important, you'll be able to do all of those things with friends from across the world. And I think that probably is more exciting than anything. It's not about the places you see, it's about the places you see in terms of who you're with. So I think it's a wonderful place to be, and it's a safe city. I know mums and dads are always worried about safety. Well, of course, no one can promise anywhere in this world that is 100% safe, but Bristol is considered a safe city. It is considered a place that is welcoming to international students. And indeed, it's a multicultural city. So that's great as well.
Right. Thanks, Ray. We have students actually asking about the number of international students in UWE, and which country has got more populations over the others. And could you actually share with us the number of international students in UE?
Well, itself has students from all around the world. And what's really good is I don't think any country particularly dominates the number of students that are in the university, apart, of course, from the UK itself. More students are from the UK than anyone else, but there are about 4,000 students from across the world. That varies every year, but generally about 1,500 students travel from Asia. And that's a real mixed group, from Malaysia, from China, from Indonesia, Thailand, but also India, Bangladesh, Mauritius. It's just a real fantastic group of students from across Asia. But then there are students from America, Australia, Europe, a lot of students from Africa. So when you actually go to the university, you're mixed with friends from the UK, but I think you could pretty much choose any country in the world and you'd find students from those countries. So it really is a great mix of people coming together and learning together.
Writing on that questions, we have students actually asking for whether they can get their local food, whether they can get their halal food. Yeah.
Yeah. Halal food is not a problem because, in fact, the UK is multicultural and many of our communities are, in fact, Muslim communities. So halal food is readily available. Um, I think international food is also easily available in a number of the supermarkets, and there are indeed a number of specialist supermarkets for Asian communities. Having said that, I don't know if you'd get exactly the food that you would have back home, but I would say that's part of the experience of being abroad. When I come into Asia, one of the things that's most exciting for me is to try all of the local dishes. And I hope that everyone who goes to the UK, sharing with that international student community, will try food from around the world.
Right, thank you, Ray. We also have students asking about the accommodation, because usually these times of the year, that's when the accommodations applications have started, but they have not seen that coming yet. So they're asking when they actually start applying for accommodation. Yeah.
The intention is to open the accommodation booking service in May, so it's slightly delayed, but it will be in May. And I think the first thing I need to say here is, as soon as that's open, keep your eye open in your UE Welcome email, in your portal, then you must apply because there are about 1,000 places guaranteed for international students and hopefully more. But the critical thing is that if you want to book accommodation, apply now. You don't have to pay anything, so that's not important. It's a bit like booking a hotel, that once the hotel is full, it's difficult to get a place. So far better to apply early, try and get your place in accommodation, and you've got a large selection of where you'd like to stay. Some people like to stay on campus. Some people would prefer to have a city centre facility. So that's where they're not on campus, but they're in university accommodation or accommodation with one of our partners in the city itself. So all of this information will be available in May, and I think it's quite important that at that time you take a good look about where you want to be and you actually make the pre-booking. As I said, nothing to pay, nothing to worry about. You can always withdraw that booking later on.
Right. Thank you, Ray. We also have students actually like contemplating between like stay at the university on campus accommodations or live in the private accommodations. Or what would you advise?
I think that depends on yourself. It's very difficult to advise because at the end of the day, we all have different requirements and the things that we like that are different. Many students like to actually share a house together. So then they have to find private landlords, which in fact is relatively easy to do. People often get worried about this, but Bristol is a big university city. So there are many houses that are over 2 students to rent, and that's quite possible. Often a group of students from the same country like to actually get together, and we help that through our WeChat and WhatsApp groups. We really help bring people together so that if they want to share accommodation, that's something they can do. Obviously on site, if you're on campus, you're very close to where all the lectures are going to be, you're close to the sports facilities, and you're going to meet the whole international community. So lots of people also like that, especially if they're going for more than 1 year of study. They like to spend their first year on the university campus. Other people just want to be in the heart of the city. They want to be where all the action is. And for them, it will be an apartment in the main city centre. And as I say, there are university as well as university partner accommodation in the city centre. So it's a really difficult question. But what we will try and do with the help of something called the Global Centre, the Global Centre is there to support students, is we will try and help you in those choices. But at the end of the day, it has to be your choice. What I would say is that probably sharing a house together does work out cheaper generally than actually having university accommodation, which is on the whole en-suite facilities, single rooms, and obviously that makes it slightly more expensive, but still quite reasonable in terms of cost.
Right. Thank you, Ray. We also have students actually concerned about the deposit. As we all know that to come to UWI for study, students will need to pay a £3,000 deposit prior to their visa documents, which is called CAS, is being issued. And then this year, with the COVID situations, and will they actually need to actually pay for the deposits, and when they need to pay for the deposits, and whether there is a refund in case of anything that happened due to COVID? Yes.
I think at the moment, the most important thing to do is to get your application in, get the offer. Once you've got the offer, and it's an unconditional offer, or even a conditional offer, there'll come a point when we will ask you to make a deposit. We're not going to ask for that deposit until we know for certain when the university is going to open in the autumn. So there's no rush, there's no panic over that. And even if you pay at that point and things get delayed and you decide then to defer payment or defer entry to the university for a following year, that will be possible. I'll give you a guarantee now. If you pay a deposit and you're unable to come to UWE because of the current COVID-19 circumstances, you will get a refund. So please don't worry about that. Your money is secure. You will get your money back if for whatever reason you're unable to come to UWE Bristol. And I think that's really important that you have that security at this moment in time. But at the moment, I would just hold on paying because I think there's no rush. Let's see what the future holds, and let's see when we have certainty about when the term will start.
Right, thank you. We also have students asking whether UWI actually offer some kind of scholarships.
Well, like all universities, UWE has a range of scholarships. If you come from a partner institution, this means a university or a college where UWE has an arrangement, then we already guarantee you a £1,000 partner scholarship. But on top of that, in each region, in each country, we have a series of scholarships, and it varies from country to country. For some, it's based on merit. For others, it's based on other reasons, such as competitions that are held. So I know, for instance, in places like Malaysia, in Thailand, in China, in India, there are current online competitions that are running, an opportunity for you to actually enter and to see if you can win a scholarship. So you need to keep your eyes open for those. If you've done really well in your current university or school, you may be able to apply for one of the Vice Chancellor scholarships, which are up to 50% of fees. But we will contact you if you fall into that category of students that can apply for those scholarships, because that's for really high achieving people who have actually done so well in their studies that we give them an invitation to apply for those. But lots of scholarships are available. I can't promise a scholarship for everyone, but I'd look out for those competitions because I think that they give you a really good chance of getting something to take with you to the university.
Right. There's also a questions about whether their scholarships can be accumulative. There's the partnerships, and then they have merit scholarships and the chancellor scholarships. Can they actually accumulate?
Not in the way that you've suggested there, really. What we would normally do is say, here's one scholarship for one person, and that is the end. If you've got the 50% scholarship, that's what you would get, a 50% scholarship. If you get the partner scholarship, it's a £1,000 guarantee. If you've got a better scholarship than that, the 1,000 would disappear. So it's, if you like, the best scholarship you can achieve is the one that will be applied. But no, you can't accumulate them together, I'm afraid. That's not possible.
Right, thanks for the clarifications. We also pick up questions that is there any easy to actually get part-time job in Bristol or at the university itself?
There are many, many part-time jobs in the UK. Your visa will allow you to actually work for 20 hours a week, although I think that's a lot, but they will allow you to work for 20 hours a week whilst you're a student, And in the holidays, so if you stay in Bristol during the holiday period, you can work for longer than that. Now, actually, Bristol is a city with so many restaurants, hotels, service type places where there are so many part-time jobs for students. So I think, again, if you show initiative and you go out and you actually look in our job centre, we have a job centre on site, a student union facility where you can find part-time job opportunities, then I think you'll be able to find a part-time job. But one word of warning, as you know, the current pandemic has created very different economic times. So we don't quite know what will happen in the future. And I think it would be fair to say that in terms of economics, your money, the money that you have yourself, you must make sure that you have sufficient funding to actually go to the university and pay your fees, sufficient funding for your accommodation and for your living expenses. And then if you get a part-time job, that's like an additional bonus, because I just don't know if those part-time jobs will exist in the same way immediately after this pandemic. And I think that's probably a global issue that none of us can answer.
Right. Thank you, Ray. I think there are students also like asking for the possibility to stay back and work after their degree, because prior to the pandemic, there was the British government actually announced that there's a post-study work visa after their degree or a master's degree.
Yeah, it's absolutely the case. When you finish your degree in 2021 or after, then you will be able to create and get another visa, which is for 2 years, and it's called a post-study work visa. And in that visa, there's no requirement about what the job is. There is no sort of conditions to it. You can actually have 2 years working in the UK. All you have to do for the visa is make a new application and, of course, evidence that you've been able to get a job. You can't extend your visa without a job. But that's still open. That's still going to be the case from 2021. So anyone who completes, who goes to the university this year, who then completes their degree in 21 or 22 or 23, they'll then be able to extend for a further 2 years. However, I think it's fair to say to everyone that that does not mean that you can then, after that 2 years, extend again or move to having permanent residence in the UK. You can do that, but that's a different visa application process. And there's no guarantee that if you've had the 2 years post-study work experience, that you then continue in the UK. And I think it's honest to tell people that. But yes, you can go to university, get the degree, get great experience for 2 years, and then, of course, wherever you choose to go in the world, continue with your employment.
Right. Thank you, Ray, for the update on the post-study work visa bit. So we have also students asking what they should be doing in order to transfer to UWE.
So in terms of applying for UWE now, or in terms of transferring from a current location, current college or university?
It doesn't actually mention here, but I would assume if students have not made an applications, they should actually make an applications. If they have an offer, what they should do in order to transfer.
Okay then, so if you're thinking about transferring to UWE, obviously much will depend on who's supporting you with making the application. We have a wonderful group, a wonderful network of agents across the whole of the Asia Pacific region. Now, I don't think there's a city really that doesn't have UWE representatives who will support you make an application to the university. If you're currently in a college or in a university, it is quite likely that they will have a placement service that will help you with that application. Then again, you can look online. You can look on the website and you can actually find places to make your online application. And you can always contact anyone in our teams across Asia. And I'm sure as part of this webinar, later on, we will give you all the contact information where you can email and send a message if you want to apply. But I do want to speak up for our agents now, because they really will help you every step of the way. They'll help you make an application. They'll help you when it comes to times of thinking about accommodation. They will help you when it comes to payment. They will help you when it comes to the time of making a visa application. So I think going through an agent, even if you have to do that online at present, is a good thing to do. But if not, do come direct to us. We've got a big team across the region, 44 staff who are there and ready to support you and help you get to the university. The minute you make an application to UWE, you effectively become part of our student journey. We will want to help you every step of the way to the university, through the university, and I guess more important than that, after university, in terms of getting a job.
Thank you, Ray, for providing this information to our students and parents for the application stage. And while the students are at the university, can you share with us how typical students will be supported?
When you're at the university, there are so many ways in which you can get support. The obvious one is to make sure that you attend every lecture, every tutorial, every seminar that is provided for you. If you do that, you're first of all going to actually engage with lots of other learners, and actually, apart from the teacher themselves, I think you will learn a lot from each other. Of course, most of us with our learning need other support as well. And the library provides services such as classes in writing for academic purposes, classes to support you in improving your English language, actually giving you opportunities to come into discussion groups, really talking about a problem and actually trying to work out how the assignment should be tackled. All of that is there. Of course, we now have a wonderful collection of online materials. One thing that the pandemic has brought us is this opportunity to really bring everything together online for the first time. So I think if you're somebody who likes to be in your room and focus on the internet and look for help and support, it's going to be there. And that's something that's also provided. For instance, when you go to a lecture, those lectures are recorded, and if you miss something in the lecture, you can play the lecture back to yourself and see what you missed. Then we have the Global Centre. The Global Centre itself has drop-in sessions throughout the week. If you're having any problems, you can go along there, share the problem, have a chat about it, and actually get practical advice. And of course, the most important group of all, it's going to be your friends, all the students that you're in class with, because you'll have the opportunity of coming together in all the different social areas of the university, chat over your studies, talk about your work, and actually, I think, support one another to achieve. And you know, students from Asia are some of the highest achieving students at the university. And I think that's because they're confident enough to ask questions, they're determined enough to work hard, and they're not ashamed to actually seek further help. There is nothing wrong in asking for help when you're not sure about something. And often your tutor will say, I hadn't thought of that. Thank you very much for bringing that to my attention because I'm learning too. So much help is available, but you have to be confident to go out and get that help.
Right. Thank you, Ray. I Oh, we have students also asking about payment, still about payment, whether they can actually pay by installments, and also whether the university would charge them interest.
No, there is an instalment plan and you can pay by installments, and there's no interest in terms of those payments, but they have got absolutely set times when the payments have to be made. So I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but what I do know is that when you have a date to make a payment by, you have to make that payment to continue with your studies and ultimately go on and graduate. I guess that's the same with any organisation. At the end of the day, we have to make sure that our teachers are paid for, and so the payment of fees is quite important for that. So I'm afraid, yes, there's instalment plans, but there are dates when you have to pay by.
Right. I think students can actually check with the international office, or their agents will be able to provide these information to them. thanks, Ray, for these sessions. It looks like lots of questions being asked and has been answered as well. So if there are more questions from our students, please feel free to let us know by emails, by WhatsApps, or through this webinar as well. We will by all means to get back to you through these platforms. And then we look forward to receive your applications and assist you with your transfer to UWE. And lastly, Ray, do you have any message to send to our students and parents?
I would, because these are really extraordinary times, and I guess we're all wondering about what will happen in the future. But I think today is important for tomorrow. What we mustn't do is keep on worrying about tomorrow. We must actually take action today. And I think my message is really clear. Education will continue to be the most important part of our future development. How we learn and what we do is the thing that will make a difference. So I would urge everybody to really start planning their future education. It's not about whether it's at UWE, it doesn't matter. The important thing is to continue to look what you want to do for the future, to make your application, to make your plans. If those plans get delayed by 1, 2, 3 months, a year, that's a small amount of time in a lifetime. And actually, we can all learn from this pandemic too. So I hope that you have the confidence to take action. I hope that you really will see that what we do today matters tomorrow, that you will consider your university future, and that you will take positive action. This situation will change, and you can have a wonderful, bright, and exciting future as generations have done before you. So we look forward to having the applications. The most important thing now is, of course, as everybody says, to stay safe, stay secure, but more important, stay focused on the future.
Thank you, Ray. That is very encouraging. Thank you everyone for joining us these sessions. There may be more sessions coming up, and stay tuned with us. If you have any questions, always contact us through WhatsApp, through emails and phones, and even having a Zoom sessions one-to-one is absolutely fine. Thank you everyone, and stay safe. Yeah, thank you and bye.